3 more days of Pro Heroes play continue today here at the Heroes Global Championship. And with Korea and Europe done for the day, we're switching over to North America where Dreadnought. Competition for the playoffs for the mid-season brawl is becoming fierce.
It is, after last week and the mix-ups, the upsets that we managed to experience last week of HGC, everything is kind of turned on its head. It is a scrap for every single team here, minus maybe Tempo Storm.
Yeah.
And every other one is like, you have no idea where they're going to end up.
Yeah, with the 2 huge upsets for No Tomorrow over Gale Force Esports and B-Step able to beat Team 8, it is so hard to tell who will claim that second spot at the midseason brawl. Yes, it looks like Tempo Storm will probably be in the first place spot, but everywhere else, let's just look at the standings and you guys can see why. Because the middle of NA standings right now feels like a powder keg, right? We haven't seen too much mobility yet, not too much movement so far. But with every upset that happens, the pressure builds. Just look how close the standings are, the scores are in the middle of NA.
It's just, Team 8 there even finding themselves what seems to be a series separated from B-Step, something we thought we would never be able to say, that those top 3 were so safe, but that is not the case anymore here in Part 2. And it doesn't change just there with Team 8 kind of being like, oh, they're in the battle of it. 5, 6, 7 are all highly contested. They're even being tied for Superstars and Freedom halfway through the pack.
Yeah, and No Tomorrow, we see them in the second to last spot for the bottom, but we know that if they continue with the trend that they've been showing, which starts today, man, they could make it out of this.
Yeah, I think that for me is all of what today is kind of about. We got a lot of upsets last week of HGC. Now it's really the impact that those are going to have, because we get to see B-Step, who had a major upset over Team 8, and then No Tomorrow, who got a even bigger one somehow over Gale Force Esports. Who's going to be the better team out of those two? And then what does that mean for Tempo Storm? One of the only teams of the top 3 who is kind of unscathed by this mix-up of North America.
Let's check in with today's schedule and see just where that match will be taking place. After HGC Korea today, we had Playing Ducks being able to take out Tricked Esport, bringing in a page from the playbook of MVP Black, winning 1 game with Chen. Then Dignitas were able to stave off Synergy's off-meta choices, their niche picks, even the Rexar to win that match 3-1. We'll close out today, seeing if Team Freedom can continue their momentum forward versus the top team in NA, Tempo Storm. But first, No Tomorrow versus B-Step Dread. Okay,
so we were looking into the craziness of this middle of the pack of North America. We've been trying to decipher it all for you guys at home, and we were thinking about this yesterday and talking about how if No Tomorrow manages to get the upset and get, or maybe not even upset anymore, but get the win over B-Step here today,
right,
then is able to take out Superstars.
Yes.
That puts Superstars for the first time in a range, if they end up losing to Team 8, which would be expected.
Yes.
Put them into getting carry over the one. They would be in knockout range. They would be in the Crucible range, and No Tomorrow would save themselves, finally redeeming a place out of that bottom 2.
But Team Freedom's around there too.
Which then puts it into a position where it's like, it's impossible to force to totally figure out, because every team obviously is going to be affecting the next. But we do see that there is at least a realistic change, a shift that we're going to experience here in these standings. And it is going to be not just kind of middle of the pack anymore. What's your playoff? Getting one team up. It is going to be legitimate life and death for some of those teams.
Yeah, where will the powder keg blow? And where will everyone be when the dust settles? That is what NA feels like for me right now. And I'm just waiting for that week. Maybe it's this week. We'll have to see. But our first match is ready. We talked to both Airho from No Tomorrow and King Caffeine from B-Step about this important match. Here's what they said.
Hey, we're feeling towards B-Step is we're going to every game with the knowledge that every game at this point matters. And we just need to take care of business on our end. B-Step's the first match we're worrying about the most, and then we'll take Saturday to kind of formulate a better plan for Superstar. So we just take it 1 game at a time. We just decided, look, we don't want to get relegated and lose our jobs. So it's just buckle down, don't take things personal, and just win games. And the atmosphere has improved greatly. It just kind of changed on a dime.
Our victory in the match versus Team 8 was a little boost of confidence for the team. That being said, it wasn't the cleanest of victories we've ever had, so we're definitely not getting ahead of ourselves on the outcomes of that. No Tomorrow is actually one of our most common scrim partners. We practiced against them for the past 2 weeks, almost every day. A couple of the other teams wouldn't scrim us, so we ended up just scrimming against No Tomorrow, and we both put in a ton of effort, and played a ton of games. And this past weekend, we both ended up pulling some big upsets. So I think they're a really strong team, but we do have a lot of information on them, and I think we have things prepared.
So not only is this a match between two teams who have shown crazy improvement, two teams now that also scrim together a lot, which, as we've talked about many a times, always makes things interesting, especially once you get into games 4 and 5.
So now the questions that we already started out with today with, after the upsets, where does everything end up landing? It only gets that much more hidden, harder to really kind of figure out the true answer. What was the reasoning for the results that we may experience here today? That, it makes me happy, and also it hurts me a little bit on the side because I wanted to walk away today and be like, you know what, I've got it figured out. And, sadly, that might not be the case, but it's still, awesome to see, anytime we get to teams that know each other very, very well, what ends up happening to the draft, what kind of adjustments we see the teams make.
Yeah, and even from the outset, maybe what surprises the team wants to bring. When I talked to King Caffeine, he said that we may have some things prepared for No Tomorrow. I'm not going to tell you that, especially since we're in an interview that's being recorded, but we have some plans that we are going to have. Let's see what the first battleground will be, and maybe that will help us figure out those plans a little bit more. No Tomorrow is taking us to Battlefield of Eternity, bans on Braxis Holdout and Cursed Hollow.
Battlefield of Eternity now rising. I believe when looking at No Tomorrow, what they've done with their map priorities, it has been, now that, at least last week, when Dragonshire has become more popular in North America, they were the only teams running it in Part 1. It does feel like they're now, somebody else is going to take us to that battleground. Let's put our priority pick onto something else, another strategy that we want to show.
And even if it wasn't the case, yes, they were picking Dragonshire a lot, but they were not winning on it. That is actually one of their worst map scores, given that it was such a high priority for them. So they are switching things up. Battlefield of Eternity, they are 4 and 2 on, so it is one of the better battlegrounds for them. And also, it is a place where B-Step has not always found a lot of success. Early on in Part 1, they were drafting a triple range, just trying to poke style of Battlefield of Eternity that didn't work out for them. So they're still trying to figure out their jam on Battlefield of Eternity. And this might be where we could see No Tomorrow try to get the first victory and get the momentum of the rest of the series.
We're about to find out. Draft kicking off for this series. I expect it, this is one of the few maps with the duo of the Zarya Tassadar that neither one of them overly stand out on their own, especially the Tassadar. But it doesn't matter here. B-Step is going to remove that as their first ban. So then I would expect the follow-up Zarya removal here for No Tomorrow.
One thing that we need to keep in mind for this match specifically is both of these teams have been heavily prioritizing double warrior compositions, especially No Tomorrow. They're even willing to play triple warrior on some battlegrounds or if they can get their Zarya, who they do love. But both of them have struggled with a lot of warriors. Neither of them are playing a lot of variants, so if you take him out of the equation unless things have changed, you look at Arthas, neither of them have been able to win a game with Arthas yet in Part 2. Both of them love Muradin. We know Erho has been prioritizing Muradin heavily, and it's King Caffeine. He loves his Muradin. So I think we're going to see warriors rise and rise throughout this series as the drafts develop.
Yeah, and that's a really good point you bring up, especially with Erho and King Caffeine, because that has been, Erho has been changing his priority on what he wants in terms of a warrior, and Caff has always kind of been I stick to my comforts, especially when they're relevant into the meta.
Yes.
So seeing that, that No Tomorrow might put more emphasis onto the Muradin, I think I agree with you. That's only going to escalate the priority on the side of B-Step if they want to get the heroes that they've been more successful with recently.
And I love this ban on Malfury, and B-Step have been traditionally even first banning tasks, which is not the norm for a lot of other teams. They're willing to let that be the second ban. This enables No Tomorrow to say, what do we not want B-Step to have? No Tomorrow hasn't been as high priority on getting their support early on. They let the support go later on, with Tiger JK even being willing to play Karzim. And on Battlefield of Eternity, that's an okay pick to make. So they take Malfurion away, and that is the highest picked hero for B-Step.
And now, as you said, B-Step is going to actually first pick their Muradin. Battlefield of Eternity, we've even seen King Caffeine run his own style of build with the bonus damage to non-heroes? What? I don't know.
Sledgehammer.
Yeah, what is the official application?
Yeah, it is non-heroes when it counts for structures as well. Minions, mercenaries, monsters, and structures all go into that non-hero unit category.
That's been putting, it's really been able to help their race. It's been very beneficial with the stacking of the Perfect Storm at level 1.
Yeah.
So it's going to be exciting to see if, again, that is a, innovative strategies that's going to be paying off for B-Step in the draft. But for No Tomorrow here, going very deep into their time pool on what they end up wanting to pick. Traditionally in North America, we've seen the Li Ming almost never make it past this priority, and with the support banned out, does No Tomorrow want to pick something up like that? No, they're going to stick to the Arthas and then go for a Greymane.
I think Greymane would be another, just becoming more contested across the board in North America, not even between these two teams. No Tomorrow on Battlefield of Eternity so far has always banned Greymane in the second phase, but if they're fearing that they can't control B-Step picking it up in this next rotation, choosing to take it here. Arthas, though, that is an interesting one for No Tomorrow. Like I said, not doing the best with him. They're 0-3 so far with him in part 2, but he does offer a lot. He's able to slow down attacks if he wants to sit on top of an Immortal and slow down your opponents, as well as being able to pair with the lockdown of the Immortal.
Yeah, I mean, I adore the Arthas priority there for No Tomorrow. It's just whether or not it's going to work out with, knowing that they've struggled so much recently on that hero. Pairing it with the Greymane, the Executioner, the chase potential that it provides onto anyone and everyone on pretty much any part of Battlefield of Eternity. It's going to be an amazing pickup here, but for B-Step, they're going to go right through the Lunara and the Lucio, having the top priority pick on supports after No Tomorrow banning out the support, but not picking it one up for themselves. That might come back to set him back. You talked about No Tomorrow, specifically Tiger JK is more comfortable on different types of supports than most of North America. And it's going to have to show here in this game. I'm expecting probably the Karazim for them now. Just considering BOE without Lucio, without Mouth, that really stands out to me.
I think it's either Karazim or Lieutenant Morales. If they feel like they can correctly hold on to Lieutenant Morales, keep her safe, they may potentially be okay with her here because it is Battlefield of Eternity, but otherwise I agree with you. Karazim adding to the race as well as the high mobility, maybe even giving mobility to Greymane and Arthas, who are ones who benefit a lot from that.
And what that does, I feel like it's the Karazim largely because the Lunar that we see so highly up. Almost so much so that I think it would be a reasonable ban for B-Step. I don't know if I would say it is the best, but I wouldn't be totally surprised if they removed the Karazim, just not only for the complement of the race, but again, being one of the few that is successful, or used to be one of the more successful ones into a Lunara.
If not Karazim, is it rocking out time already?
Yeah, no, I mean, we're just jamming here in this draft.
Lucio was picked instantly. I was like, wait a second, we don't have Lucio music going. What's wrong with us? Switch on over. How much are B-Step worried about Zarya for No Tomorrow?
I feel like it's definitely a big focus, but they consider the Morales even over. So we talked about whether or not they wanted to move in that direction, and the Morales has been more of a go-to for No Tomorrow, one of the two, but with Morales only winning when it comes to just supporting, and she does nothing to the objective itself, accenting the map, and is still a very comp-dependent focus. It just seems like a B-Step now knows the direction of the support that No Tomorrow is going to move, and I really want to see them do something to try and take advantage of that. I just feel like it's not going to be able to compared to what the Karazim or the Zarya ban would have been, because now No Tomorrow really, can go any direction with their draft, and it will still be, it'll be good. That second ban really just didn't have
the oomph that you would like?
Yeah, it didn't really, if there's 20 routes that they could have gone after this ban phase, I don't feel like that ban really cut one off at all. If anything, the Morales would have been reactive, not a proactive pick.
Does it seem to you like maybe they are, hold on, we're getting some more picks. A new Barak, we talked about it, No Tomorrow are going to be picking a lot of Double Warrior and Li Ming. Now here is an interesting one that I have to talk about, because Li Ming has not won a game yet in HGC North America of Part 2. She is sitting at 0-8.
She is just, okay, so why does that make sense, though? As we know that high health pool heroes have become only stronger and stronger and stronger, which Li Ming struggles at actually getting the execution onto a double and triple warrior composition. It makes sense as to why she'd be struggling and why she maintains the priority on Battlefield of Eternity to what she, only slightly lower than she was in the past.
I like, though, that No Tomorrow picked her along with the new Barak, so that B-Step, who has also been playing some in new Barak, I think we've seen K1 Pro be the one to play him if Muradin is also picked for B-Step. Now, B-Step doesn't have that avenue of being able to stop her skill shots as effectively. They're going to have to use their bodies, the old-fashioned way of being able to block that. B-Step still likely are going to get another warrior here. They've been playing a lot of double warrior too.
They could transfer into double support Azaria Lunara, or excuse me, Azaria and an Ariel would be an insane double warrior kind of double support composition they could have gone. But they are going to do the double warrior, you know, setting the Leoric pick, and then going back to a Tychus for their backliner here. No Tomorrow for their last pick, needing to pick up the support. Where do they want to go? We've been talking about the Karazim all game. Rhaegar would be the next go-to. Again, moving into more of the tidal waves with the cooldown or mana cost reduction at 4.
Yeah, that's consistent with Tiger JK's favorites. He plays Rhaegar, Karazim, and Malfurion all an even amount and has barely touched Lucio, unlike B-Step, who's playing him a little bit more. So No Tomorrow probably likely not too upset that Lucio was the support taken. Maybe Morales, though, depending on where No Tomorrow wanted to go. Especially if they wanted to go for this Arthas and Nubarak composition, feeling like they could have kept her safe. But now it comes down to Karazim, Rhaegar. Which one will be able to deal with the Lunara damage? It's Karazim.
I like that pickup a lot more. The only reason I really do see where you can make the argument more for a Rhaegar in that department is largely just based on the fact that Karazim is your I support squishies and Rhaegar is your I support warriors, just based on the Ancestral versus the Divine Palm. It's more likely to get the proc whenever you use Palm on a squishy than it is with the healthy heroes, whereas Ancestral is very forgiving when it comes to the high health pool. So in a double warrior, double backline like that, the trade-off comes down to how important are they an impact on the race, and obviously Karazim takes a lead there, but then it comes down to, again, am I more worried about my front line taking too much damage and want to move into the Rhaegar, or instead it's going to be the squishies? Here it's more focused onto the race, but I think it is going to be the better pickup for them.
Especially Tiger JK too. We know that he can hit palms. He did very well in their last series last week in being able to land those important palms versus the Twilight Dreams, knowing that exactly how much damage it was going to do to take out his squishy hero. So obviously very showing his prowess on that hero. Let's talk about the Leoric choice. Leo Muradin here on Battlefield of Eternity. What do you think about that second warrior pickup?
I mean, it's going to be awesome into a double warrior. Leoric doing the percentile damage along with Tychus. They're going to be able to do a lot of damage to the warriors themselves, but they don't have any over high amount of burst to be able to deal with the Arthas or the Anubarak. Anubarak Arthas we know to be probably the best, one of the best duo warriors to possibly have on your team. They just have so much dive, so much damage, and way too much survivability together. I just feel like it's putting a lot into the late game mistakes to be made for it be Battlefield of Eternity.
Yeah, well, we do know that B-Step is a team that is okay with losing out in the early game and then making the miracle plays to get them back into the game. We are ready for that game, so we're heading into Game 1 on Battlefield of Eternity. See you there.
And here is No Tomorrow in the blue with Tiger JK on the Karazim. Urho, as always, on the front line, going to be playing the Arthas, Talking Trees, trying to change the win rate of Li Ming. Casanova is going to be the secondary warrior. They're playing Anubarak, and Greymane is going to be played by Jason.
And their opponents, the members of B-Step. Support player APM playing Lucio. King Caffeine on his Muradin, which means his counterpart, K1 Pro, will be playing Leoric. iDream playing Lunara, and finally, McIntyre will be playing Tychus. I have some cool stats to share if you'd love to hear them at the beginning.
Let's, start it off. Let me know what you got.
Nice. The biggest one is Tiger JK is sitting at second in the region for kill participation. And on his Karazim, in Part 2, he averages 4 kills per game. I believe that is 3 games so far played on Karazim. So watch out for his Karazim. It is lethal. It's not just support. He's looking to bring the pain to B-Step.
It does do very well when it comes to not only damage on the race, but any squishy. Lunara has to suddenly second-guess her positioning, especially post-16 with that wave of 100 fists, and the Iron Fist there taken at level 1. And you're right. Tiger JK has been such a back-and-forth performance player, really, for me. It feels like he has been so hit or miss. It started off with a lot of high hopes for him at the beginning of HGC, and it felt, his play left some things to be desired. Then we have moments where he can just play out of his mind, like the last time we saw him on the Karazim, hitting almost every palm you could ask for. And then, going back once again to others where it just feels like, he's kind of just filling out a role. And so I would love to see nothing more than him again here on the Karazim have an amazing play because we need more Karazim players in North America.
You know what's crazy too is I talked to Airho. I asked him who was in charge of Muradin bot last week, who was the one who had to take care of it. And he said that Tiger JK was doing it somewhat, as well as I think Talking Trees. They're both trading back and forth, taking care of it. But because Airho is the shot caller, Talking Trees stepped back in and shot called because Airho's computer died. He could not even help out with the comms too. So being able to make sure that, and when everything goes wrong, the team is still able to close that out. So Tiger JK, sort of the backup, I would say, when you're looking at who is shot calling for the team.
When things get tough, who does the team rely on, I feel like? And Tiger JK is going to be the secondary here, but we have our Immortals spawning here. The first phase, both teams kind of testing the waters, if you will. Nobody putting too much emphasis and fully committing to get that damage out.
With Lunara picked on B-Step's side, we have to look at who's going to be able to confirm kills for them if she doesn't go into Leaping Strike. Is that Muradin that they have to rely on?
Muradin would probably be the most reliable. Hold on a minute here. Urho, he's going to be fine. He ends up making it out there. I thought that was a risky rotation for him to try and execute. But on that note, with the who is going to get the execution, there is kind of a hero that breaks the rules on when you need a burst to be able to confirm some kills, and that is Leoric. Based on the fact that a very, very late game still, but those are the situations where you can get away with it because you just sacrifice the Leoric, and even though nobody ends up dying, you lose the Leoric who will spawn fast. Everybody's health pools are so low that they can't move up and try and take an advantage while you're down the Leoric. Leoric comes back and suddenly your team.
Oh, those magic missiles were so close in getting first blood for Talking Trees, but iDream makes it out in time. No Tomorrow starting to amass a lead over the Immortal health bar, but it's slight.
Yeah, but what I was just saying is essentially that because the Karazim makes it back in time, Urho stunned out. JK with the heals here. It doesn't look like he's going to be able to make it out, though. First kill of the game going over to B-Step. Progressing onwards, No Tomorrow's health pool is falling lower and lower, but Lucio going down on the side of B-Step.
Oh, I don't think Jason's going to make it out. He's going to try to lead the team away from the rest as King Kepin takes him down, but Casanova is being sieged out by McIntyre, so No Tomorrow will pay for getting the first Immortal half done with 2 lives. They do take out 1. So they're going to try to move back in as much as they can, but with the 2 damage dealers, range damage dealers still alive for B-Step, they weren't the ones to get taken out. They can move back in and try to bring down this health bar as much as they can.
K1 Pro there on the Leoric looking to try and zone and draw any aggro away from the Immortal itself. The race here is going to be close, though. Both teams getting it below the 2,000.
Oh, did that stun?
No, it did. That was it.
Stun. The Immortal stunned all 5 members. They were trying to go in and get the Leoric kill, and they paid for it because they lost the Immortal.
Yeah, the AoE knockback bought just enough time for that to be what looks like a near non-existent shield on the Immortal. And B-Step is going to be able to pick up the very first Immortal here of this game.
A frustrating moment for No Tomorrow, to be sure, but they have a lot of damage to try to bring this down. They put Anubarak immediately back in the top lane to keep up the soak, make sure they don't get behind. It's a good spot for B-Step to try to siege down some towers, but with all this damage, they're only going to be able to get 1 even before No Tomorrow clean this up.
Yeah, that thing just got deleted there. So very fast. Talking about deleting, Casanova caught in rotation. He's going to be able to scurry on out for now with his life. We have a pretty even game on our hands for the first 5 minutes. We will not be experiencing the 8-minute Battlefield of Eternity that we know, and depending on what side of that you are on,
Love. Yeah, it is questionable. It does not feel good to lose before your heroic abilities. MVP Black, the kings of being able to make that happen on Battlefield.
Playing. This could be an amazing start to a fight here for B-Step. They even move off the point. Casanova has to scurry out.
This poison's starting to do too much damage to all the members of No Tomorrow, and they have to step away, not able to secure the Cosver camp. Having trouble dealing with the damage of B-Step so far throughout this game. When does that change for them?
For the pressure that B-Step's been able to apply, it really shouldn't be B-Step applying the pressure. So I feel like the answer to that question is going to be not ever, really. So No Tomorrow with the Arthas, Greymane, and Anubarak, their early game isn't necessarily that great because their damage to get the kills isn't there outside of just the Greymane Arthas chase. But so maybe at the 10 mark is where that momentum will suddenly change. But around the 16, 17, 18 up through 20, B-Step will be redeeming themselves with their composition, and they have a big enough level experience, half-level lead, three-quarter level lead early game to where that's going to be a lot of breathing room for them. B-Step is feeling very comfortable for what they've drafted and what they've been able to make happen here for the first 7 minutes.
B-Step can slowly approach this since they only have that level until 10 and just try to defend as best they can. Push the members of No Tomorrow away. No Tomorrow, we generally know them as being defenders on Battlefield of Eternity. They're willing to pick up someone even like Alarak to be able to defend around the Immortal. And so far we've seen them try to be more of the aggressors. So we'll see how that works out for them. As they dive in, Casanova's going to go for the dive on iDream. Tiger JK wants to continue with that, but just gets deleted.
Yeah, it was very comfortable accepting his fate, trying to get the kill, so at least the team goes even here. McIntyre is not done. Gonna drop the gun there onto Jason. Everybody with the peel, Howling Blast hitting 2. No Tomorrow trying to question if they can make something happen, but they cannot. B-Step gets one more kill, gonna back out, look towards the Immortal, and they have a full level lead closing in on the 10. Adding salt to the wound, Shaman still pushing away on top.
No Tomorrow can do what they can. They have Li Ming, they have a Nubarak who can poke as much as possible, but they're not so far clearing out those Shaman, finally sending Greymane to the top. Heroic abilities now available for B-Step, who forced the halfway point. Leaping Strike picked up for Lunara.
Everybody else sitting with the standard here of competitive heroes. B-Step is going to be looking to finish the rest of this Immortals. 9 is the only thing here for No Tomorrow for some time. I think even after this Immortal, with the 30 seconds it takes to even leave and push down a lane, is going to be out of reach, at least for the first 4. That is going to be a 3/4 shield Immortal. And B-Step's not done. They're actually trying to gank up on top.
Yeah, they saw Karzim and Greymane sieging in the towers, trying to get heroic abilities in time for the defense of this Immortal. And it is sort of close for No Tomorrow. They're going to keep a Nubarak in the top lane. The Immortal's going to go back to the bottom again.
Oh, Tiger.
Stormbolt. Tiger dives over, has Radiant Dash. This is scary to be around this fort. With no Nubarak here, all of B-Step. Cat's going to flank. Odin used. And they're going to back behind the gate.
Odin there's got, 20 seconds to be able to siege up, so they're comfortable using it here this early on. And with the shielding still up, No Tomorrow thankful they've been able to pick up level 10 and their heroics, and Nubarak is looking for that flank. So No Tomorrow's actually going to try and force here. Once the shielding is removed, they're just waiting for the perfect moment, posturing around.
K1 Pro is anchoring to see when this will come in, but here comes Casanova, dives onto the backline. Impale to follow up, Sound Barrier to keep iDream and the rest of B-Step safe. No Tomorrow trying to continue the aggression, going after K1 Pro, trying to slow him down, but he has Wraithwalk and does get back to the team. No kills for No Tomorrow. B-Step stays alive.
But B-Step managed to get a lot of damage there onto that bottom keep. And so they are still very comfortable here in this game, being ahead of No Tomorrow. No Tomorrow has an opportunity, though, now that they managed to get those heroics. Not necessarily the most ideal fight, forcing within a Nubarak flanking. If they manage to get that somewhere else without that Punisher, or excuse me, not the Punisher, but the Immortal itself sieging upward, drastically increases their odds of success into a team fight.
There are all 5 members of No Tomorrow here in the bottom lane with Leoric in the top lane. So now that they've seen that he is there, they have to try to make something happen to catch up. B-Step's just looking to get the 16 advantage for the next Immortal fight. So it's Erho and the rest of the team of No Tomorrow who has to try to either make something happen or get back, because Leoric has now just started sieging this fort on top.
Yeah, that's one of the beauties of Leoric, even pre-buff, really. It's just how effective he is at, being a problem in one lane, because even if you manage to gank him most of the time because of his slow and the effect he has after death, beyond just spawning faster than every other hero in the game, is the fact that, conveniently enough, he can just disable your rotation, scout for free the entire time, and allow your team to get something elsewhere after he's taken your fort and conveniently just died.
Yeah, and with block as well as hardened bones, he can tank a lot of damage while Wraith walking away to safety. So even if he does go down, he's tanked a lot. He has been able to put pressure on this top fort so that it guarantees that if B-Step can again win the next Immortal, they're guaranteed to keep pressure once again. They may even be able to just allow that Immortal to push up in the top and then rotate down and get that bottom keep, making sure that they have opened up a way to win the game.
I think that is going to be the main focus here for B-Step. If they manage to pick up the next Immortal in any amount of time, making sure they can get that keep is such a safe strategy whenever you have a structural lead that's kind of weighted on the side of the map. Bottom here. Caffeine is caught out, but he's got Dwarf Toss. He's got a lot of things up here.
He's used Avatar 2. Dwarf Toss is out. No Tomorrow still cannot get kills, but they do force Sound Barrier at the very least. Arrow has popped Army of the Dead, so it is go time for No Tomorrow as they put the damage down onto K1 Pro. McIntyre sieging over the wall, showing that he has used Odin. Did make a lot of heroic abilities used for B-Step, but similarly, No Tomorrow used Locust Swarm and Army of the Dead.
I want to shout out to K1 Pro and the patience of not forcing that Entomb. It allows them to be cooldowns up and now get the re-initiation here. On to No Tomorrow with the talent here. The Shaman Camp taking out the fort on to top. I mean, you know, what is No Tomorrow really able to do at this point in time? They can only go back, look for some soak. It is very unrealistic for them to be able to take a fight without Army of the Dead and not having Locust Swarm. They're just, you know, one Entomb away from getting wiped.
They are taking a risk, allowing Trees and Greymane to siege over the wall to force halfway, but so at least this is defensive positioning, so it's a little bit easier for No Tomorrow to try to defend around this Immortal because it's closer to their base, while Greymane goes up and tries to soak the lane. They're getting closer and closer to 13. 9 seconds until they'll have Army again. Locust Swarm 20 out. So they may just be able to do this, Dread.
They may be able to now with B-Step. After, you know, kicking off the halftime, that really did give them a lot here with the defensive positioning. B-Step is getting anxious, though. It looks like they're trying to force before that 13th. One good knockout from the Yonuba Rack.
You can see the sledgehammer, too, doing lots of damage to the Immortals.
All right, so we got the 13 here for No Tomorrow. They're finally going to be on the same talent tier. The shielding and health on the Immortals for now is near even, so this is going to be an opportunity for No Tomorrow to swing the momentum into their favor. But they have to get the proper fight.
Looking for it. Casanova has driven off McIntyre from the side. It's a scary spot to try to fight around your opponent's Immortal, and especially so in this defensive positioning. JC's been seen. Stormbolt goes down. It's on Airho. He has Army of the Dead. He's going to pop it. Casanova dives to the back. It's Idrin they're going after, but Lucio blows up. A 1-for-1 as Arthas goes down. Trees is looking for those resets. Jason gives it to her by taking out Lunara. Now using that Calamity, they're going after K1 Pro, trying to get it. Jason dives in. A third kill for No Tomorrow.
Odin in the back is managing to put out a little bit of damage, but with 3 members down here, No Tomorrow can get eager, move up towards this Immortal and be able to take out the damage. Greymane and Karzim doing what they do best on the race. They're down in experience, but they're up when it comes to this Immortal, and for the first time, it looks like No Tomorrow will be able to gain control of the reins on BOE.
Ooh, stopping the backing of No Tomorrow was McIntyre, and that may seem like a small thing, but it's pretty frustrating. They were out of mana. They had to go all the way back again, and this might give a little extra time. This will give a little extra time to whittle down the shielding of the Immortal for B-Step. So nice find. They know that the globes are going to spawn there, and that's what No Tomorrow were looking to get. B-Step punished them for it.
And with B-Step having such a structure advantage when it comes to the HP, having that keep almost down on bottom, you know that No Tomorrow wants to open up the map themselves so they can threaten lethal at any point in this game. And just again, you know, stopping that back, getting that free damage out has really limited that as the Immortal, it's not even barely making it up to this keep on wall, which normally in that position, you'd be looking at that Immortal and being like, you know, we may be able to get a keep off this if we get just 1 to 2 picks, and it all starts with a grenade to stop a Leeming back.
Watch for the Stormbolt. He hits it.
Also got the disengage interrupt here. Army of the Dead is popped. 2-man Howling Blast. The chase is going to be real. Sound Barrier is there, hitting all 5. B-Step now is going to be looking to be aggressive. Are we going to see a Wraith Walk Entomb?
We've yet to see one of those just yet, but Casanova goes back in once again. We're looking at King Caffeine, who has popped Avatar. He's getting very low. Slowed down from Airho. The slows are entirely too much, and No Tomorrow get another kill.
We are yet to see an Entomb
I know.
period this entire game. Because I thought for a moment there when we saw that skirmish happening, I was like, you know, K1 Pro not entombing there was very heads up. It allowed them to bait out their heroics. They didn't take the fight that they didn't need to take. And then later they're going to be able to force it. But B-Step obviously didn't manage to force that onto the Immortal itself. End up losing the next fight after an entire rotation of spells comes back online for No Tomorrow. I just feel like K1 Pro, for the first time, does feel slightly out of place on a melee.
Especially for a siege. When you see your opponent sieging on you, that's generally the opportune time to throw an Entomb out if they get too close to the wall. But there's Karazim, there's a new Barak, there's Li Ming too. So you are sort of limited on the targets that you can do a lot of work with in the Entomb. So maybe that's the issue, is they're having a hard time figuring out who the heck they should even Entomb in the first place.
Yeah, I just feel like B-Step needs to try and cycle out the heroics, bait some out, use the Wraith Walk, look on getting withdraw. Talking about that, Urho is falling down almost to 0 HP, not dropping army yet. They're trying to bait the palm. It's used.
Oh, the poison damage! Oh, there's an Entomb. Jason just dives right back out through it, but it doesn't matter. There is a Stormbolt still to be able to stun him out, and B-Step will get a kill when all is said and done. They'll even get a second one.
All while the Immortal HP is going to be up, so they can get that free damage out here, and they are really desperately going to need it to finally secure that bottom keep that they have wanted for the past 10 minutes here in this match. Urho tries to move up. McIntyre says not today with the minigun.
The zoning is impeccable for B-Step to keep everyone away from the heroes who are putting the damage on Alarian, the blue Immortal. Bernard's going to come back to help out that effort as well.
Yeah, that's going to be a much-needed secondary damage source there.
Yeah.
To be able to get it off into halftime show before the two members of No Tomorrow come back to life here.
Sadly, Lucio does not help out too much.
Yeah,
he attacks fast.
He does. You know, he throws out the triple auto attack, and it looks like it's going to be doing the damage, but in fact,
it is just tickling Immortals.
It really is. You know, almost any hero in the game, really.
That's
it's just,
true.
It is that low of DPS. It's like getting hit with a wet blanket, really. It's just kind of just there, you know, doing its thing.
Like, oh, this music's nice. Thank you.
Talking about doing its thing here, we're just watching No Tomorrow try and be defensive after getting everybody alive, but B-Step really not giving them the time of day other than K1 Pro with still having that Wraith Walk. Seeing three members out. B-Step moves up onto the Immortal itself. iDream having to dodge the stuns there, uses beautiful double leaping strike out.
Yeah, that was awesome to get away from Casanova, because iDream has been the target point for those burrow charges. We'll see if Casanova can get him this time. He does hit him. They're going to follow up too. Trees just throws out the laser beams, hoping for the resets. Give me a reset, guys. K1 Pro stepped in, and that might be the reset they need.
It's going to be the first here, but No Tomorrow Jason has got so little HP. He ends up falling here, so 1 for 1 so far. But B-Step is waiting on that Leoric resurrection here as we've made it to the later parts of the game, where K1 Pro is beyond comfortable being the individual who's going to be sacrificing his life to be able to race out Greymane and come back.
Yeah, that's not enough kills for No Tomorrow to feel comfortable separating someone back to throw out damage. Li Ming will step back just to get a combo of abilities out, but the minute that that health bar drops, B-Step steps back in. They know that this Immortal is so close to being claimed. They don't want to let the shielding go down too much. So a half-shielded Immortal for B-Step to try to take down a keep for No Tomorrow.
So let's see what B-Step ends up wanting to do here with this Immortal. It looks like they have volunteered to siege with it rather than try and get the split pressure on the bottom, forcing that keep here. We'll see what they can make happen. They absolutely 100% need this keep minimum. And it is very, very realistic that they'll be able to get it unless No Tomorrow gets a legendary flank.
They'll have Odin in 13 seconds to help with sieging if they would like. Trying to take down the wall before the shielding gets taken down all the way.
So the shielding is still going to be here. No Tomorrow needs to move up. Odin is going to be dropped. The keep already falling down to the 50% HP. Stun going on to Urho. Takes a lot of damage, falling below the 50%. And that is going to be the Entomb. And the kill there. Palm not going off from Tiger JK. You can tell that was the plan due to the lack of army. And they're going now for the core.
Yep, Airho down. That's already won a 4v5 defense. Can No Tomorrow make it work? They force Sound Barrier from APM. And Tiger JK getting desperately low in health. Uses Palm on himself, but it is ignored. And Karazim drops a second kill. And the game claimed by B-Step in game number 1 of this best of 5.
And I guess that answers that for the question of at least the beginning here of this series for the two teams that had the upsets unlike any other before last week here, is now that B-Step is somehow the one that is going to pull ahead at the very beginning of the series. Another thing I did not expect in part 2 of North America HGC.
Well, we know that B-Step is such a strong late game team, and being able to be ahead or at least even with No Tomorrow for a majority of the game, even in the early game, had to be such a good momentum swing for B-Step to feel like, okay, well, we already are late game. We've got Lunara too. We just know ourselves to be late game. The fact that we're still getting picks, we're still controlling a lot of the early game immortals, this bodes well for the rest of this game.
Yeah, and I think it showed. Their composition and just knowing them as a group of players is a very late game focus, at least here in part number 2. Team. So yeah, I agree with you. It shows why they were going to be successful up in that game, especially having the Leoric and making to the later stages of the game with an advantage. Much like an Abathur, most of the time that happens, you're feeling pretty good about your team and what you managed to be able to make happen in that game, and B-Step is going to pull ahead.
And poor Li Ming has another loss on her record. That closes out game 1. After this, we'll have game 2.